Now, those stats and those proportions will be different for you depending on what sector you're in and how long those purchase cycles are. But there is lots and lots of data on this, and the first thing to do when trying to convince any of your senior management about the value of brand and how it helps drive growth and revenue is to talk about that long-term investment versus the short-term investment. So how do we do it in practice? I'm going to talk you through a couple of examples of how we do it at HSBC within the commercial bank on the B2B side. So at the top of the screen here, you can see some examples of some of essentially our brand building campaigns, or what we call priming. So this is top of the funnel, high level messaging. It's not trying to convert anybody today. It's trying to remind them of the strategic themes that are strongly associated with our brand. And for us, that's about being international. It's about sustainability. It's about us being able to kind of open up opportunities for you. So you can see in the copy there, we've got some nice sort of open questions about how can your entire business go green without your bottom line turning red. It's meant to be an intriguing question that just kind of leaves you with something to think about. There's a very clear sort of visual identity there with our hex in the middle. But it's not trying to convert you today. It's just trying to land a message with you that gives you something to think about. We do a similar thing on the right-hand side here in some of our group brand airports work. And if you've ever been through Heathrow and gone down a jet bridge, you might have seen some of this work. And it does a very similar thing. Big open questions. Often they're touching an emotional subject. And again, just trying to get you to think and something that will resonate with you as a human being or kind of give you some mental stimulation. At the bottom here, then you can see what's much more a classic sort of demand gen campaign. And this is for a particular product called Business Go. The first thing you'll notice is that there's a visual connection, right? You can see it's part of the same brand. You've got the hex identifier there. We're still using open questions to try and intrigue you, but they're now much more specific. They're about a product and the capability of that product, and there's a call to action that we're trying to drive you towards. So it's a classic sort of demand gen campaign, if you like. And the way that you can see how they're linked kind of visually, I guess, but the other things that we're doing is trying to link them through metrics and how we're measuring the performance of both. So in those priming or brand building campaigns, we're measuring things like share of voice. So we want to be known, as I said, for things like being international or being the bank that you come to for sustainability. And we're measuring in social media how many times we're talking about that versus our competitors and how many people engage with that and whether they engage positively or negatively. And that gives us a picture of share of voice. It's not the only metric, but it's one of the ways that we look at our brand building. And you can see the influence of that share of voice as it grows and as it goes up and down on direct campaigns. And as our share of voice gets stronger over time, as long as we're consistently building that, it becomes easier to convert in the demand gen campaigns. And we also see that then in things like cost per acquisition. So this is something I'm sure would be true for you as well. We operate across 50 plus markets. Our brand is quite strong in some markets like the UK and Hong Kong. It's not so much in many others. So perhaps if you went to the US or I'm trying to think, maybe even China, we would be a bit more of a challenger brand. And so how hard our demand gen campaigns are having to work is more so in those markets where the brand is not as strong. And you see that then reflected in things like cost per acquisition.